celebrities promoting harmful pseudoscience.
And in that, I read about myself, and I was shocked to learn that I believe that 911 was created by the government. I did not know. I didn't know that I believed that.
I don't think you've ever said that.
I've never said that. The only thing I've ever said that's controversial at all is that Tower 7, when you watch it fall, it looks like a controlled demolition. And I don't think that's controversial because it looks like a controlled demolition.
Yeah, when you look at just the top half of it, it does.
Well, you look at the whole thing, the way the structure collapses.
There's no video of the whole thing. You can only see the video of the top, really the top quarter of it as it disappears behind the building.
It's not really, I wouldn't say it's the top quarter. It's a 48-floor building, correct?
I don't know. I'm not going to argue the fraction, but you don't see the bottom of it.
Well, that's true, but it is very unusual how it falls into its base instead of falls over.
It didn't. It fell. It started to fall down straight, but then it almost destroyed 2 other buildings that it fell against.
Watch it again. Here, look at that. Yeah, that's way more than the top quarter.
Okay, it's not. It's not. You don't see the bottom.
That's almost the entire building.
No, it's not.
Okay, let's see it again. Let's see it again because we
foreground.
caught that in the middle. Let's see it again.
I mean, it disappears into the smoke before you can see much of what
Right,
happens.
but I think it's a bit disingenuous to say that that thing doesn't fall into its base. Look at that.
It doesn't. I mean, look,
Come on,
it's
man.
already going at an angle. Look at that. Look at that.
Okay, but it all fell to the bottom. I mean, let's look at that one
It's
again.
not going to fall to the top.
Okay, but you're being kind of silly. That thing collapsed into its base. This had never happened before, and it looks like a controlled demolition. I'm not saying it, but let me be clarified, because this is important. I'm not saying it's a controlled demolition.
I know.
I have no idea, but that's what it looks like. To say it doesn't look like that is kind of silly.
No, if someone had just listened to our last 5 minutes here of the exchange, it sounded like you were trying to convince me that 9/11 was a hoax.
Like who? To who would say that?
I think anyone who listens to that 5 minutes, it would sound like you were trying to convince me Building 7 was a demolition.
No, it wouldn't.
Okay.
It's not. It was very specific that I don't think it's a gray area. I don't think it's a black and white issue. I think it's a very gray area.
If you had to bet yes or no, was 9/11 orchestrated by the government? If you had to bet, would you bet yes?
I would bet on no. I would 100% bet on no.
You would 100% bet on no.
Yes, I would 100% bet on no.
So if you're 100% betting no, then
well,
on the question
it's a bet. I mean, I might bet no, but it doesn't mean anything.
I'm asking for your personal level of confidence, your opinion, and your personal
if
confidence.
you're forcing me to bet, then I would bet no.
Okay, so
but I would never say I know one way or the other.
So if I asked you, what is your bet on whether Building 7 was a controlled demolition, are you still 100% no?
I certainly wouldn't bet. I certainly wouldn't bet because I don't know enough.
So if it then makes sense for you to promote the idea that 9/11 was probably not a government conspiracy, then why would you spend 5 minutes showing me this video and bringing it to the attention of everyone on your show saying, hey, look at this, look how it was probably a controlled demolition. Or
That's not what I said.
I'm sorry, look how much it looked like a controlled demolition.
Because it does, because it's interesting.
Yeah, but unless you're framing that within the context of, look how easy it is to be mistaken, which is not what you said.
But why do I have to do that, to just observe something that's fascinating?
You don't have to do it, but what Neil Tyson was trying to sell you on was the value of doing it. Giving people the tools to understand the way the world probably actually works.
Okay, how does that relate to you listening to me go on about how it looks like a controlled demolition? You agree that it looks like a controlled demolition, and just because I'm expressing that, you're saying that if someone listened to that, they would think rather that I'm trying to convince you that 9/11 was a hoax. I think that's a giant stretch. An enormous stretch.
I think that's what it sounded like.
It didn't sound like that to me.
Okay, well, let me go back again to how this is a good segue to what I wrote back in 2008.
Okay, please.
Okay, so I think you were number 8 on my list of top 10 celebrities who promote harmful pseudoscience. And here's the paragraph that I wrote on you. Number 8, Joe Rogan. Comedian Joe Rogan does what he can to promote virtually any conspiracy theory that he stumbles onto, apparently accepting them all uncritically with a wholesale embrace. Now, I know you would disagree with that now.
Of course I would.
Okay, and I want to give you that chance, so let me continue. The worst part is that he promotes these ideas to the public at every interview opportunity, but gives himself the intellectual get-out-of-jail-free card of not needing any evidence by hiding behind the childish debate technique of saying, hey, I'm just the guy asking questions. God, this makes me sound like an asshole.
Well, it's just factually inaccurate on so many different levels. I don't understand why you wrote it like that.
Because many of us, myself included, think that it does more harm than good because you're suggesting to anyone who might be on the fence, you're suggesting to them that there is a debatable question here, something that's crazy and has no possible evidence for it. We don't hold scientific debates about that. When you agree to have a debate, you're going to convince anyone who's on the fence, oh, maybe there is a question here that needs to be looked at. And in fact, I think it's arguable that you do more harm than good. And so by the same token, I say that it's really possible when you say, hey, I'm just the guy asking questions about Building 7 or whatever the subject is, that you're potentially doing more harm than good by suggesting that there is a questionable subject here. Roswell, let's take, for example. Hey, I'm just the guy asking questions. Isn't it strange that there were 3 small bodies that needed coffins?
Well, let's just stop with the one example. You think that potentially addressing a reality in the way something looks, that could be dangerous.
When it's on a matter of basically settled science, I think you're doing more harm than good by suggesting, hey, shouldn't we question whether 2 + 2 = 4?
But to deny that these things exist, I think, is silly, because then you fuel the conspiracy theories even more, because you're denying something that seems obvious to the eye. The average person that looks at that building says, yes, that does look like a controlled demolition. Does that mean it is? No, it doesn't. But to pretend that it doesn't look like that is ridiculous.
Okay.
To pretend that it's not odd that it falls at free fall speed is...
I'm not sure anyone is denying that it looks like a... The part of it you can see in the video, it does. It looks exactly very much like a controlled demolition.
So you criticize me for what you agree with.
No,
you
no, no.
agree that it looks like a controlled demolition. Discussing it.
No, that's not what I'm criticizing you for. I agree that it looks like a controlled demolition. That's not the question. The question is
whether it should be brought up.
No, well, I mean, we're sticking on this one example of Building 7, and I don't think
it's
the
because
best
we haven't
example.
resolved it yet. It's a good example because it's an example that you use as an example of you thinking that if you listen to me just describe what I see with my eyes, that it sounds to me like I'm supporting some sort of a conspiracy theory when I'm 100% not.
Okay. Would you...
It seems like you have topics that are off limits. And that, like, discuss something like that, even to look at the reality of the speed that it fell, just to even bring it up, is off limits.